Да, Владимир Владимирович, все, как мы договаривались. Нет, американцы не подозревают. Все, я вам перезвоню. Ага. Good evening. My name is Tanya. This is Russian something. Добрый вечер. Earlier this week, thousands of people took to the streets in the Siberian city of Kemerovo in Russia to protest the government in wake of the shopping mall fire, which claimed the lives of at least 64 people, many of them children, and injured dozens more. The causes of this completely preventable tragedy are unfortunately all too common in Russia. Blatant disregard for the most rudimentary safety regulations, coupled with top-to-bottom corruption in the government, when something as simple as money for fire extinguishers and fire alarms goes into the pockets of local officials. That is all well known, and that is not what we want to focus on tonight. Days after the tragedy, posts began emerging on social media, citing anonymous sources at hospitals, claiming that the true number of victims is counted in hundreds and that authorities are hiding the scale of the tragedy from the public. And people readily believed it because it sounds true, except it's not. Don't trust the things you see on the internet, as Albert Einstein famously said. Google it. A few prominent Russian bloggers have already come forward apologizing for sharing unverified information and creating hype over tragedy, while other people simply deleted their posts. But the damage has been done. It has caused unnecessary pain, not to mention that many people are still convinced that the government is hiding the true number of the victims. And that is unfortunately very symptomatic of our age. Complete and rightful distrust for the government, coupled with the capability to share any kind of unsourced information with a large group of people within minutes. What could possibly go wrong? Look, I know it doesn't help my case that I'm telling you all of this from the internet when this show may or may not be the project of the Kremlin. But that's exactly why I would urge anyone to check their information before sharing it, or just listen to me. I could be your sole source of information. You are welcome. I have just recently returned from Moscow, where I was voting in the Russian presidential elections. My vote mattered, much like popular vote matters in this country. They counted, and then the Russian government decides who's going to be president. But look, you may say all you want, but this presidential race was a real nail-biter. Nobody knew who was going to come in second. It was such a close call. This time around, second one in came the candidate from the Communist Party of Russia, Pavel Grudinin, seen here with a giant strawberry, and not one, but two Lenins, one white, one black. Communist Party of Russia, an equal opportunity employer. By the way, that guy said that if he gains less than 15% of the vote, he will shave his mustache. He got 11%, which means that now we finally have an answer to the question of how a modern-day Stalin would look like without facial hair. Once again, you are welcome. Look, I know what you're going to say next. Tanya, your elections are a circus and a farce with virtually zero credible opposition and a metaphorical choice between a giant douche and a turd sandwich, which you don't even get to make, for a giant douche just tells you that he's going to be in power for 6 more years, and you're just waiting of some golden age when one day you may finally be able to elect a mustacheless turd sandwich for a change. And I will say, good point, Americans. Look, let me put it in a relatable perspective for you, okay? Perhaps the best analogy to Putin's grip on power in Russia today is the issue of gun control legislations in the United States. First of all, both kill people. Thank you. Look, both issues have been unequivocally identified many years ago, consistently bear negative repercussions, and yet for the longest time, no one could do anything about it because those are parts of larger systems that seem unbeatable. And in both instances, the first to attempt to meaningfully tackle the issue in any sort of way happened to be high school students. On March 24th, millions of protesters joined student-led demonstrations in Washington, D.C. and in over 800 locations around the United States and the world, calling for tougher gun regulations in wake of multiple school shootings. That has been an event of unprecedented scale, which a lot of people already call a potential tipping point in gun control legislation. And that has been spearheaded by students who have had enough. Now, around the same time, on the eve of the Russian presidential elections, Russian journalist Andrei Lashak released a 5-episode docuseries called Age of Non-Consent, which surprisingly has absolutely nothing to do with Roman Polanski's personal life. The film follows young activists and supporters of the Russian opposition figure Alexei Navalny. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who were born and raised under the tenure of Putin. Most of them have not even lived under any other president. At the same time, they were brought up in the age of internet. They don't watch TV, get their news from various sources, speak English, and have managed to construct their own versions of reality based on global cultural values. There's a boy who spends his free time driving around the dilapidated town of Tula on his bike, handing out flyers to babushkas and telling anyone who would listen who Navalny is. He dreams about going to the United States, has a flag of California in his room, and knows remarkably a lot about Texas cheese fries.
Весь плюс, короче, техасской картошки в том, что в форме, в прожарке, в соусе, необычном соусе, который здесь продают там, а там есть соус ренч. Вот он соусом ренч полит, и, короче, вся картошка посыпана, короче, этим сыром расплавленным. Вот в этом вся суть техасской картошки.
There's an LGBT activist in Murmansk who consistently goes on single protests to the city square rallying against homophobia. A self-taught high school student who graduated from school early with straight A's and now is in the process of applying to Harvard to study computer science while at the same time coordinating Navalny's regional headquarters in Kaliningrad. And many, many others. These are intelligent, highly motivated, well-spoken kids with a cute sense of dignity and remarkably no fear for current Russian regime. Over the course of the film, they are being threatened, arrested, detained, beaten up, expelled from schools and universities. In one instance, a group of elderly Putin supporters who go by the name Putin Squad, which is a real thing that exists, actually, as a threat, hang a toy Pink Panther in front of Navalny's regional headquarters, which these kids, by the way, save and create an Instagram account for. Look, my point is, these kids go through a lot on a regular basis, and yet they meet the policemen who come to arrest them time and again over the course of the film with the ever-recording video camera and a question that they keep asking over and over again. On what grounds are you doing this? On what grounds?
На каком основании?
Вы шутите? Вам еще раз будут применены силы средства.
Look, this is not a film about Navalny, who is himself a controversial figure, as one of the main characters puts it.
Окей, ну.
Что, вы хомячки Навального?
Нет. Не Навального, а прогресса и сторонники изменений. Почему Навального сразу?
By the way, if Hamsters of the Progress is not the title of Pixar's next movie, I'm not sure what they're doing anymore. This film is not even so much about the political fight. This is the film about the new generation of people who have self-respect. People who speak English and see United States not as a mortal enemy, but as a model for the government. And maybe the fries. These are the people who know that they deserve better, and who, for the first time in a long while, are not scared to do something about it. At some point. But what are we to do in the next 6 years that Putin is still in power? Perhaps the most eloquent answer was given by a Yekaterinburg-based artist who goes by the name Slava PTRK. The morning after the elections, he released this video of 100 people dancing on a frozen pond to Georgi Sviridov's composition Snowstorm. No matter what happens, one needs to remain optimistic and do his job well, Slava wrote on Instagram. At some point in the video, couples stop dancing and form a phrase, "Fuck it, we're dancing," as seen from a bird's eye view. And dance we shall. That's our show. Thank you for watching. Хорошего вечера. Владимир Владимирович, ну я же не могу в прямом эфире сказать, что...